Good evening. Welcome to 45 South tonight, Friday the 26th of September. My name's Helen Stead and I will be your host for this evening. News from the front page of the Oamaru Mail. Oamaru Man helps big astronomy project. An Oamaru man at the forefront of a project set to revolutionise the way we see the universe will be attending a conference in Perth next week to discuss his contribution. Nicholas Endodi, whose company Open Parallel is working on the world's largest radio telescope, he will be attending a conference with 300 scientists and engineers from around the world to discuss the design of the project. The Square Kilometre Array, that's SKA shortened project, is an international effort by 11 countries to build the telescope, which is made up of thousands of smaller radio telescopes set to be placed in southern Africa and Australia between 2018 and 2024 to monitor and survey the sky. Mr. Endodi said the conference next week will be a chance to discuss his company's first contribution to the SKA, a preliminary software development plan which was delivered last month. He became involved in the project after being one of 3 organisations picked from a number of New Zealand companies who applied after an expression of interest was released by the Ministry of Business, Information and Employment in 2013. There was a public call for organisations from New Zealand to participate. Open Parallel was chosen because they knew what they were doing and had the right expertise. It's absolutely a privilege to be working on it. Mr. Endodi established a team of 7 people from around New Zealand and Australia to work with him on the project. We are a small participant group, but we are on the front line. They started work in late 2013 and will need to work for probably another 2 years after getting feedback from next week's conference, Mr. Endodi said. This is a seriously huge project. We are working with the brightest in the world. It shows big things can be done from Oamaru as well. It's a splendid exercise and we look forward to talking to you when he comes back again. Now then, from inside the Oamaru Mail, community unhappy with draft water bylaw. Members of the Waitaki District Council were asked to reject the draft Waitaki Water Supply Bylaw 2014 on Wednesday and to consult with people involved in rural water schemes. Councillors listened to verbal submissions on the draft bylaw and heard several times from a strong contingent of rural submitters how the bylaw catered only for urban users. A simple reference to agriculture under the extraordinary use of the water supply was highlighted by Ross Ewing, a past president of Federated Farmers and chairman of the Kara Hill Water Committee. This is a vitally important part of our rural sector, and there is one little paragraph covering rural agriculture. Mr. Ewing said he considered the bylaw to be the divorce papers of rural water schemes. Councillors were reminded that historically water schemes were put in by rural communities to provide water for stock. The strong collaborative ethos, which has seen dads, uncles and neighbours manage and police their own water supplies, was highlighted by submitter Bill Malcolm, who said Council was trying to put 2 mindsets into one bylaw. The rural sector sees it as a cooperative, and those schemes that don't have not survived, he said. Barry McMillan, a member of the Herbert Wainakarua Water Scheme, explained his dissatisfaction with agriculture being classified as an extraordinary use under the bylaw. In his submission, he referred to wording in the bylaw which says the councillor is under no obligation to provide for extraordinary use of water, and went on to say that Council must realise that as it has pushed for more control of water schemes, it was taking responsibility for the supply of water to some 500,000 stock that depend on water from rural water schemes. And being the weekend, sport. Old Gold's Dunedin bound. North Otago will head to Dunedin tomorrow to take on South Canterbury at Forsyth Bar Stadium in week 6 of the Heartland Championship. The Old Golds notched their second win of the campaign over Thames Valley, 19-15, last weekend, while South Canterbury's 19-10 loss to Buller in week 4 remains the only blemish on their record this season after toppling Poverty Bay 32-28 in a tightly contested battle last Saturday. Tomorrow's encounter will be another must-win for North Otago if they're to remain masters of their own destiny, and Mullins believes his players will take confidence from last weekend's victory. And there's a note that club cricket season begins, and they've got the roster for that, and in fact it seems to be very much the summer has approached us, and of course it's daylight saving this weekend. So I'll be back after the break with the weather and the program.
I'm Jeff from Smash Palace. I started this business 25 years ago. Our main business is car parts, but we have car rentals, car sales, and a huge tyre bay with new and second-hand tyres. We carry a huge quantity of parts and can generally supply most orders, but if we can't, we're on a computer link-up that goes around 900 yards in New Zealand. Call us for options, new or used, prices and guarantees.
I'm Chris from Smash Palace. We do tyres from little wee 10-inch brand new right through to great big mud terrain tyres.
Our car rentals, we have 20 options from a little Corolla to 12-seater vans and even a Honda 145 motorbike. Come on down and walk no more. We also run a car sales. Our vehicles are just $2,000 or less. We're motor vehicle traders, and everything that goes out has a new warranty for us. Try us for price options on new and used, so you don't spend more on your car than it is worth.
Welcome back. Friday the 26th at 12 noon, the temperature was just 11 and the overnight low is expected to be 6. Tomorrow, Saturday the 27th, the high is expected to be 14 and the overnight low of 4. The forecast for Saturday, high cloud, southwesterlies developing in the morning. Sunrise and sunset, sunrise 6:15 a.m. and sunset 6:39 p.m. And the tides for Saturday, the high tides 5:09 a.m. and 5:37 p.m. The lows 11:22 a.m. and 11:49 p.m. And Sunday's weather, still not all that good, but the high is expected to be 11 and the low expected to be 4. And the forecast, cloudy periods and northeasterlies developing. Now then, for the program tonight, we have part 3 of the Savage Club at the Scottish Hall, and then an archive clip. It's called The Labours of Hercules, and this is a Marion Maguire exhibition. The labours of Heracles. Having arrived on the Endeavour during Maguire's earlier series, The Odyssey of Captain Cook, the ancient Greeks have resolved to settle the new land. So this is what the exhibition follows through on. In this collection of 12 lithographs and 8 etchings, Heracles, the archetypal muscle-bound hero of Greek mythology, is cast as New Zealand colonist, and in that role he sets about the tasks necessary to claim and tame the land, to transform it as part of the wave of change, the persistent influx from the west. Through most of this series, Maguire draws Heracles in the style of black figure vase painting from Athens of around 550 to 500 BC. His silhouetted profile is generally hooded by his trademark lion pelt, and he is carrying his other identifier, a heavy club made from the knobby trunk of an olive tree. But Maguire also personifies Hercules with a face borrowed from a French lithograph of the Rangatira Natai, first drawn during the voyage of the Astrolabe, 1826 to 1829. By omitting the moko and adding the lion skin, the face becomes that of Heracles. The similarities and differences between himself and the tangata whenua become more apparent. On the ground floor, as the exhibition by Marion Maguire, who's a master printmaker in New Zealand. She comes from Christchurch and at one time lectured in printmaking. But there are these lithographs and etchings that she's done here. And this one called The Labours of Heracles. And of course it's based on the story of Hercules, the Greek myth, and it relates to pioneering New Zealand and the relationship that the Maori had with Europeans and also theirs with the land and breaking it in. So this one we're looking at shows the Greek water-carrying vase, the amphora, and they're standing on plinths that are of the Greek architectural design. And the one on the back left, and you can see the tall kauri forests. Then on the front we have somebody who it's supposed to be Heracles, realised too, that he's got a theodolite and he's obviously talking about what he's going to do on his land. The large one at the back has got Mount Egmont, and right up the top it's got all those wooden fences from which the trees would have provided the timber for the fences, and here he is down on the right hand side planting, and in the centre he's got his cow. And when you look closely at the large vase in the centre there are cows and sheep and the countryside that it's typically New Zealand. Here we have another amphora, and that portrays the pioneer colonist writing home. And he's sitting at the table with the fire on, and through the window we can see again that he's cut down trees. He's got an amphora on the mantelpiece, so that knowledge and memories of Greece are all there. And then on the bookshelves at the top, and there's Mrs. Beaton's cookbook, the Holy Bible, all New Zealand country. I'm not close enough to read it. Darwin's Origins of the Species, the Iliad and the Odyssey, so that the books are learning about his own country, reading about his own country at the same time he's brought something from his home country, in inverted commas. And somewhere, yes it is, the top of the amphora, there is the Union Jack. Heracles struggles with the taniwha, which is in the centre there, and the zigzags are the sea with the they're probably whales or seals that are also swimming down below. And then Further up we have a whaling scene which is actually from an original photograph that is held in the Alexander Turnbull. Right up the very top on the lip of the amphora we have the waka with the Maori going out to meet symbolically Captain Cook in a ship. Again, we've got the wave design, which is now converted on the handles of the amphora into Maori motif, coming right down to the further below the taniwha. Again, we've got this time the symbol of the early settlers all arriving with all their luggage, and as they walk across, they come into native plants, and this would have been what they found New Zealand like when they arrived. And further down is another scene which is actually from an original photograph. There's a band of soldiers all marching and going up the gangplank, and right at the very bottom we go into what there is under the sea, and so the symbols of water and mythology are linked. Heracles goes to Gallipoli, and here we have on the left the Maori with his moko, and he's wearing the same New Zealand Army hat as the European on the right. There is an irony, of course, and these two are both going now to fight with Britain. In the centre we have Heracles, and he's in his warlike pose, but he's also got his head inside the lion's mouth, showing his great strength. And here we have Heracles' dreams of Arcadia, that he's burnt down or cut down all the forests, very heavily North Island, and you have him digging, presumably to think about planting something. And his dream is of this beautiful exotic land that he knew before he came to New Zealand. A long way to go to make it like that. Heracles takes up dairy farming. Here he is with his cow, Mount Egmont, Mount Taranaki in the background, and symbolically, only they're not really like ferns as we would know them in the front here, but it's definitely the land has been cleared. Further back in the centre at the foot of Mount Taranaki, we have still got a lot of bush. It would seem he's also drained this area, so Heracles is standing in an area that's recently been cleared. And on the left-hand side, he's actually introduced the foxglove. Heracles discusses boundary issues with the neighbours. Now this time we have a number of contradictions or juxtapositions, in that Heracles, it's hard to know whether he, is now on the right, but he's got a European face and he's inside the lion's mouth. So his image of strength, which he felt that he had behind him, is very much a European one, whereas on the left-hand side we would have either the Greek original, but in this case he's got the moko and he has the club. He's got other Maori symbols that are very much Maori. So this you could read, or I read, at very many different levels. Hercules goes hunting. And here we have him looking really ferocious, using a rifle, and he has just behind him a boar introduced. Immediately in front of him he's got a goat, and in front of the tree we have a deer. And if you look up in the tree on the left, there's a possum. It looks like a kowhai tree, And then the tree in the centre has got a rat climbing up a branch, aiming for the eggs. Now, whether the bird up in the top is a manaya, but it looks obviously to symbolise that it's either very frightened or it too is going to look to steal the eggs. And right down at the foot of the tree we have the kiwi. And right over in the right-hand corner there is a rabbit. Only one, but inevitably they found another one and bred prolifically. I'm speaking with the director here of the Forest Gallery, Warwick Smith. And Warwick, a wonderful exhibition. Tell us a wee bit about it.
Oh, it's a stunner. It really is. It's a touring exhibition. Labours of Heracles, I've pronounced that correctly. It's an exhibition that's toured nationwide. We're one of about 14 venues throughout New Zealand. The exhibition is toured by Exhibition Services. They've brought some stunning exhibitions to us here in Oamaru over the years. And I just love this show because you can read it at so many different levels. It's a huge amount of fun.
Yes.
I just love Heracles signing the Treaty of Waitangi and attempting to address the rabbit problem and dairying and in conversation with Vogel and how his Greek compatriots might have helped. The notion of a Greek god coming to New Zealand for the colonial period, his apologies to Athena, that things weren't working out so well. It's a lot of fun, but there's also, I would suggest, a deeper level where Marion Maguire, the artist, is addressing some of the pitfalls, the downside of European colonisation, the treatment of the Maori, and so on. But the work behind us, for instance, here he is in his lion's cape, Heracles, our hero, with his dog, of course, again a creature of Greek mythology, the Attic vase, but I think there's Captain Cook there's a sailing ship, the Union Jack, the traditional material you might find in a colonist's home, the view looking through the window at Mount Egmont. He's homesick, he's writing back, but writing back 2,500 years. It's a great exhibition in that it embodies the work of lithography and dry point etching and intaglio generally.
Well, how is that done? And it must take a long, long time, and it's very detailed.
Two quite separate processes. Intaglio basically is printing from within or beneath the surface, and that in traditional etching, a zinc plate is cleaned and treated, coated with an anti-resist material. The design is inscribed and scratched through the acid resist. Think of it in terms of candle wax, I suppose. Then it's exposed to a weak solution of nitric acid, which bites through where it's been exposed. It's cleaned away. Ink is then rubbed into the grooves. Damp paper is applied on top, and it goes through a roller press at considerable pressure. So it's a combination of the dampness and the pressure which pulls the image off the plate. So it's possible to make a number of impressions, and with all the works in this exhibition, it's not so many marks out of 25, it's the third impression of an edition of 25.
That's incredible.
Now, lithography, on the other hand, doesn't work from beneath the surface. It works on the basis that a greasy substance and water doesn't mix. And in the traditional form, the artist has worked onto a block, a heavy stone block, which has been cleaned with a greasy lithographic crown. And again, water is then applied, the ink is attracted to the greasy substance and prints. It's a totally different process.
What intrigues me is that mostly the colours are shades of grey, shades of ochre, brown.
And it also picks up the colours that we would have found and you would see in museums of Attic vases of that period, the black figure vases, which of course survive in prestigious collections. And here we are, we've got these wonderful amphora here in Oamaru, but no longer, with traditional Spartan warriors knocking Watto out of one another. I'm looking at one at the moment where Heracles is actually looking through a measuring instrument, a theodolite. He's herding cattle. It's contextualised within a New Zealand colonial landscape.
Well, I'm intrigued. The one of where he had to make love to 50 nubile women in one night. How you portray that in a picture, I don't know.
I've missed that one. Is that in the exhibition?
It isn't, no.
That would have had the good people of Oamaru flocking in their droves. No, it's a rather more subtle account, but amusing. Heracles, for instance, trying to be posh and with a Victorian tete-a-tete with the ladies of the day, avoiding, Heracles is now well off, avoiding the rather grim and determined stares of the bushmen. It's a great show.
It is marvellous, and the way in which he puts the juxtaposition of, perhaps if we move over and talk about juxtapositions, that one or that one, in the... This one.
This is a profoundly moving, and in many ways is the signature work for the exhibition. We have the digger from Gallipoli, Heracles, of course, in the middle with his lion's cape, and of course the Maori with the heavily tattooed face. And there's a certain amount of pathos, nostalgia. It's a very emotional work, particularly for me, the person in the foreground. I'm sure we've all met these taciturn, grim characters, the salt of the earth, who died for this country. And here he is recorded in a lithographic print with a figure who was a figment of Greek myth 2,500 years or so before.
Well, the other aspect is that they're going to fight alongside the British.
Yes.
And so here we have the conflict now, it would appear to be resolved by the 1914-18 war for them both to go to war on the same side, which is, it is symbolic of how...
Well, it's extraordinary too. It occurred to me because, of course, New Zealand had a great presence in Greece in the last war. So again, this is an exhibition that tells many, many stories. There are a huge number of layers, and I certainly commend your viewers to come here to the Forester Gallery to see this exhibition.
Definitely. How long's it on for, Warwick?
It's here till early September, and we shouldn't forget the exhibition upstairs. Manu Berry.
We're going to come and look at that and hopefully talk to him on Saturday.
It'll be wonderful. And we've also installed a small exhibition as a tribute to our dear friend and colleague, the late Else Mackenzie, an exhibition which we've called A Room with a View. And just 5 weeks ago, it seems extraordinary, Else and I were working on that exhibition. We have taken works from the collection, which you can see the inspiration through the windows of this upper Forester Gallery level. So we look through the window and there's the Meeks Elevator building, there's the Cape, the foreshore, and they're all captured in images, in paint, in photographic film that go back as far as 1885.
Thank you, Warwick. That's wonderful. Well, we will come back again and have a look at those too. Thank you.
You're always very welcome, Helen. Students of art, of course, will be very familiar with the composition of this work. Poor old von Tempsky, who was a mercenary soldier who fought in the New Zealand land wars in the 1860s, a very well-known painting of that period, where von Tempsky is on a horse, surprised by the Maori. The composition is almost identical. The only difference is that we've got Hercules on the horse, and it's a wonderful spoof or parody, if you like, on New Zealand art history. I was in New Plymouth a number of months ago, and the original of this work was on display. The most memorable component of that exhibition was, believe it or not, framed in a heavy black box was the lead pellet, which was taken from the tree behind von Tempsky, and the label alluded to the fact that this was the bullet that missed von Tempsky. Someone came along with a sharp knife and dug it out, obviously presented it to a museum, and there it was on display as part of an extraordinary Land Wars exhibition at Pukeariki in April. So this is, again, a lot of fun. And of course, the full title, Hercules, surrounded by Maori who were driven off with heavy losses.
These are some of the photographs that Marion Maguire used or looked at and felt they gave her inspiration. On the top left we've got the man beside the tree, and look at the circumference of that tree that was cut down, and you can follow along, and we've in the centre we've got Mount Taranaki. Here we have the whare, or the new home, and it's got a mixture of the thatch with the timber that's been cut from the trees, and then the wrestler or boxer, I'm not sure which it is, with very much Heracles. Well, he's standing in a way that shows his prowess, strength, beauty. And then coming along the bottom, we've got the trees that have been burnt, and slowly attempting and eventually managing to clear the bush. And then we've got the men working in the bush in tents, and then the three Maori children who've got a box that they've turned into a trolley that they're playing with out in the bush, and that will have changed dramatically in their parents' lifetime. Welcome back, and thank you again for watching 45 South for another week. And really, we would like people to be in touch. We've got lots of things happening. So if there's somebody out there with a camera going to events, and there's a lot of things happening with so much all around the district, and of course I notice it's the opening of the fishing season next week, so we want to hear about the longest, the biggest or the heaviest fish that people catch. And now with longer nights, or should I say longer days and shorter nights, people will be out a lot more. And so take your camera, let us know what you're doing. 17 Itchen Street, a message on our cell phone, and that's 027 45 South, 027 45 76 884, or send us an email, south45tv@yahoo.co.nz. Have a lovely weekend. Good night.